Kingdom of the Wicked was delicious. Hi everybody, Happy New Year. It's me, Lady Literacy, back with another video. I'm really going to try to be better about recording videos this year. I know that I don't have a lot of people that watch, but it's just something for me that I enjoy doing. It makes me happy. And so I decided to start off 2023 with a new video. This is kind of a video I've wanted to make for a while because a lot of other booktubers have made it and I think it's really fun. So it is a tier ranking video. I'm using tiermaker.com in case anyone wants to do something like that on their own. And I basically just imported all of the books that I read in 2022 into Tiermaker so that you can see how I would rank the books that I read this year in 2022. Technically, I read 72 books this year, but I'm only going to be ranking 69 of them, and that's because 2 of them were rereads. One of them is the book that my friend wrote that isn't like published, and then the other one is something that I read for my dad that I don't want to give any attention to because I don't like what it's about, so I'm not even going to share the name of that book. When I started out 2022, I was really in a big thriller kick, and then I kind of read through a bunch of fantasy books. So it's been very much a thriller / fantasy year, and then also a little bit of like contemporary romance because I kind of got into that vibe for a little bit. So I really didn't know where to start with this. I had to make like 5 different categories. So I'm just gonna go ahead and jump right in. I'm really excited. I'm gonna kind of give a little like, I don't know, I'll talk a little bit about each book, but I'll try not to make go on too long of a rant because it is 68 books. So I guess we'll start with Delirium. Delirium is a book that was a reread for me this year. I actually didn't finish it. If any of you haven't read it, I really don't want to spoil it for you, but the Delirium series is just this really I feel like it's so romantic and a really great dystopian series. So it kind of, I think it came out right around the time that The Maze Runner came out, Hunger Games, Divergent, and I just devoured books like that, and Delirium really became one of my favorite. It's about the idea that this utopian society thinks that love is a disease, and of course love finds a way, and I don't know, it's just so romantic. But I do feel like the ending of the first one is really overwhelming, and I didn't want to be sad. And I remember the day that I was reading it, I got to the part that I knew I was going to be upset about, and then I was like, I can't read it right now because I'm about to go do something and I don't want to feel upset. And then I never finished it, so I got 80% through it. Sorry, but I have read it before. I'm gonna say it's an amazing book because it wasn't new to me, and I still don't love it as much as some other books that I've read, but highly recommend Delirium. I also reread the A Court of Thorns and Roses series. So this is gonna be kind of hard because I actually don't remember, I can't differentiate between each book from all of the series that I've read. I guess I'll put A Court of Thorns and Roses as an amazing book because I think I love A Court of Wings and Ruin more. I was reading that one on the plane and literally cried at the end. So if you guys haven't read ACOTAR, I love it. I highly recommend it. I also read Cruel Prince, and I felt like this one was just good / okay. It is a really good fantasy, and if you're looking for another fantasy to read and you've already read the ones that I would highly recommend, I would say, yeah, go ahead and read The Cruel Prince. But it just didn't have as much, I don't feel like it was as deep as some of the other fantasies that I read are. And yeah, I don't know. It was good. It was good, but it wasn't wow. And then, yeah, so Wicked King is in that same series, and Queen of Nothing is in that same series. Autobiography is by Christina Lauren, and this is when I was kind of reading a lot more of the contemporary romance, and I fell in love with this book. I would say it was probably an absolute favorite of 2022. The concept is that there's this boy in high school who's bisexual, and he's taking a class where the purpose of that class is to write your own book. And there's a kid who had graduated the year before who had written his own book, and he's basically kind of being a TA, and he's there to support other kids in the class. And the main character ends up developing a crush on him. But this all takes place in Utah, in a very conservative Mormon area, as much of Utah is. And this boy happens to be Mormon. But they end up developing feelings for one another, and it's really just kind of about their relationship journey. And even though the main character is not the one who's Mormon, you end up really following, it really centers more on the kid, I think, who's Mormon in the story, and how he processes his feelings towards the main character. And I don't know, coming from like a conservative Christian background, where my sister is gay, I felt like I could really relate to what the secondary main character, I guess, was feeling. And it's just really good. It's worth reading. Truly Devious was a book that I picked up because of If We Were Villains, which I'll talk about in a moment, but I'm like really into the dark academia right now. And after If We Were Villains, I just couldn't find anything like it. And I still didn't, because Truly Devious isn't really like If We Were Villains, but I really liked it. And I guess I'd say it was an amazing book. Truly Devious is about a group of students that get selected to go to this really prestigious and like secretive school. And there's not really any specific criteria to get in, but pretty much everybody who gets accepted to this school is like a genius or a savant, or like they're really, really good at something, or they've done something remarkable. So one of the main characters had written a book. One of them is like this, I mean, she's not a rocket scientist, but she might as well be. And our main character is really good at like solving mysteries. And there's a mystery at the school that had happened like, I don't know, 100 years before or so, where one of the students on the campus died. And there was this letter that was saying, hey, you need to give us money or we're gonna like kill your wife and daughter, to the main guy who runs the school. And it was signed Truly Devious. But the mystery was never like figured out. And so our main character is going to the school to solve that mystery. And it gets crazy. I don't know, it's really good. There's more murders when she's at the school, and it just is a really, really well done murder mystery, in my opinion. It kind of gave off a Good Girl's Guide to Murder vibes, which I'll talk about in a little bit, but also had a little bit of that like academia vibe as well. So I really liked it. If We Were Villains was one of my absolute favorites of 2022. Yeah, this is just like perfect dark academia. I don't know if everybody else will love it as much as I did, but because I grew up doing theater and I was heavily invested in the performing arts and theater department at my high school, I felt like I could really like connect with the characters. Basically, the main character goes to this really prestigious, once again, performing arts school, and everyone there is really invested, well, not performing arts, but just in the arts. But the main character happens to be invested in theater. And basically every single year, more and more students get kicked out of the program because they're just not as good as their peers. A group of students gets smaller and smaller and kind of more elite. And every grade or year of that university kind of focuses on something different. And so by the time our main character gets to his senior year, it is, there's like 6 students total, I think, from what I remember, in that class. And the senior year always focuses on Shakespeare. And one of the main characters, one of the 6, is Richard. He always gets the lead characters. But really what starts turning this book downhill is when one of the Shakespearean plays, the cast gets made, I think it's Hamlet. And Richard is not the main character, which really upsets him. And this ends up making like the book more dark, and it's like a twist because usually the characters kind of play like the same archetypal roles. I think what makes this book so great is not only that it's a murder mystery and that it has like that dark academia vibe, but I just love the Shakespeare. I really, really, really enjoyed it. I would say maybe listen to it because that's how I read it, and I felt like it made it easier. And I don't know, I just felt like I was there and I could feel like the eeriness, and the settings and like the descriptions of everything are so good. I would highly recommend it. Love it so much. I'll say A Court of Frost and Starlight was just good. I mean, it was fine, but I feel bad saying that because it's in the ACOTAR series, but it wasn't my favorite. Okay, the breakdown, I will say it was meh. This is when I was really trying to read more thrillers, and I think it's by, B.A. Paris. B.A. Paris wrote Behind Closed Doors, which was one of my favorite like thrillers of all time a while ago. And so I was really hoping this one would be good, but I could barely tell you what it was about. All I know is that like this girl's car breaks down and she sees something. Oh, she sees like a girl, and then that girl ends up getting murdered, and then the main character feels like she was responsible because she didn't help the girl. So I don't know, it was just meh. A Court of Mist and Fury, if you know, you know. That's my absolute favorite of 2022, or one of my absolute favorites. Again, all of the ACOTAR was a reread. I just just loved Roomies by Christina Lauren. Christina Lauren, she's the one that also wrote Autobiography, and it's two girls. But I just loved Roomies so much. The main character has had a crush on this street musician, like a performer in one of the New York subways for a while. And also, as a side note, like her dad is the director and producer of like one of the most popular Broadway shows, like think Hamilton level popular. But the main violinist for the pit orchestra of that show is quitting, and they need to replace that musician. And they have another musician in mind, but she's just not really living up to the expectations that the other violinist had set. Meanwhile, like at the very beginning of the book, the main character gets pushed into like the subway tracks, and the main love interest guy that she has a crush on ends up seeing this, and that the guy, like the street performer, kind of had something to do with how she got saved. He's an amazing, amazing guitarist, and she ultimately is like, hey, I think you might be able to play in the pit orchestra. It's gonna be a totally different sound, but I think everyone's gonna love it. And I think that's one of the reasons why I just love the book so much, is because every time they describe him playing by himself or with the pit orchestra, like it almost brings me to tears, and I feel like I'm there and I feel like I can hear it. And again, I think that's just because the performing arts person in me is just really attached to that kind of atmosphere and those vibes. And so I don't know, I was just really sucked in. And of course, like the main character has like a cute Irish accent, like how adorable is that? So I really loved the book. Great representation. Yeah, I would say it was an amazing book. Front Desk was a reread for me. I read it every year with my students. So I must have read this like after winter break last year when I was teaching. I'll always say it's an amazing book because it's just an amazing book. Where do I put? I guess I'll put amazing book. Love in Other Words was such a sweet book. You get to follow the main character and her love interest as they grow up, and it's adorable. And they're basically like best friends who become lovers, you know. It's so sweet. I don't know. It's just like one of those like coming of age books, and it's perfect. I love it. What If It's Us? I don't know where to put this one because I was listening to it and I just loved listening to one of the main character's voices. Like he did such a good job reading that character and making him goofy and dorky. But I guess since I'm hesitating to put it in the amazing book, I'll just put it in It Was Good. I would still really recommend it, but not nearly as much as I would recommend the others. So yeah, it was good. Here's more of that like Truly Devious, so absolutely gonna put it in the amazing book. I read Crescent City, and let's see, this one, okay, this is the second one. I have to put it in absolute favorite only because the second to last chapter, I was like, screaming. If you like ACOTAR, you have to read Crescent City. It's super different than ACOTAR or Throne of Glass, but I did eventually get into it. It took me a while. There's a lot of world building that's really hard, and I had to like text my friend and ask on like the Sarah J. Maas Facebook groups questions like, who is this character again? And like, what is this? It's very different. It's kind of like a modern day twist on fantasy, but you just have to read it, especially if you like ACOTAR and you're going to keep reading those as they come out. You have to read Crescent City. I would not recommend the one. I was really disappointed with this one. Again, this was when I was trying to read more thrillers, and it had this like really great premise, but I don't know, I feel like it sucked. I feel really bad to say that, but yeah, so did not like it. The concept is really cool. It's like you know, I actually read another book. Let me see if I can find it because they're basically the same thing. This one, The Soulmate Equation. These are basically the same concept where it's like a dating app that matches like your DNA and it finds your soulmate basically. The one is like finding your soulmate. The Soulmate Equation, you could find your soulmate, but basically it matches you with people. Like it's like, hey, this is a 10% match for you, a 20% match, a 30% match. But it's not like based on your interests, it's based on your DNA. So that's what kind of makes it a little bit different than other dating apps. Where I feel like the thriller really let me down. The Soulmate Equation was such a cute rom-com romance novel. And I would recommend it. I wouldn't say it was like an amazing book, but I would recommend it. Vicious was a book that I read because I wanted something like If We Were Villains. and it just didn't deliver. It's nothing like If We Were Villains, other than the fact that it is dark academia. All the main characters are villains, and I just felt like, I don't know, I just like didn't care about them. I don't know. I want to care about them, but I didn't care about them. And so that's the main reason why I am just kind of putting it at meh. Perfect Child was a book I did not finish because I saw the direction that it was going, and I was like, no, I don't want to read something like that. I can't handle it. I feel like it delivers on a thriller level, but it's also just not the kind of thriller that I really actually wanted to read. So I would not recommend that one unless you're okay with things that are really cute getting hurt. A Good Girl's Guide to Murder. I love this book so much. I love the series. In fact, I might put it up. It might be an absolute, yeah, it was an absolute favorite of 2022. It's just such a great like thriller series. And I would highly recommend the audiobook because they definitely have like different, like a cast of characters reading the parts. And they've got like sound effects. Like whenever the main character is recording somebody, they make it sound like that tinny recording sound. And I just really like it when audiobooks do stuff like that. This girl has, capstone isn't the right word, but it's like a culminating project that she has to complete for her senior year. And she is trying to solve a murder of the town that she lives in that had happened like 7 years before or something. She has a personal connection to the main character, or to the character that was accused of the murder, but she thinks he was falsely accused. And so she's kind of just trying to redeem his name, even though she can't do anything to save him because he supposedly killed himself. So it's just such a great series, and I would highly recommend it if you're looking for something like, I don't know, if you're looking for like a YA murder mystery. It's just really good. It's just really good. The Poppy War, I don't even know where to rate this, honestly. Like, I want to put it in, it was good. It wasn't what I expected. I thought it was gonna be like one of the best books I'd ever read because it had really good reviews on Goodreads, but I think I was missing the romance in it, and it's just something that I look for when I'm reading fantasy books, is that I do want there to be a little bit of romance. And honestly, I kind of want there to be a little bit of romance in every book I read. So I guess don't read The Poppy War if you're looking for like fantasy that's kind of like ACOTAR, because it's not going to be anything like that. It's not going to be anything like The Cruel Prince. It's just not. It's darker, it's more violent, it's really heavy, and honestly the main character is not that likable, so you're gonna have to go into it realizing like you're probably not gonna like the main character that much. But it doesn't make it a bad book, it's just not necessarily what I was looking for. Lock Every Door was personally, like, I would say an absolute favorite of 2022. It was one of the thrillers that did deliver. It's by Riley Sager. So I've read The Last Time I Lied, which I think is amazing. And then I tried to read Final Girls and couldn't really get into it. But Lock Every Door was really, really good, and I would highly recommend it. I don't know how to explain it. Basically, like, the main character starts living in this elite and exclusive and really private, like, apartment complex that she should not be able to live in. She doesn't fit in there, which is why it's kind of weird that she's offered the opportunity in the first place, but she definitely takes advantage of that opportunity. But things take a turn for the worse when some of the other tenants in her situation go missing. Good Girl, Bad Girl, I'm gonna have to say it was good. I really liked that book and the When She Was Good, these go together at the time. But now I feel like I barely remember what they were about. Another one has just recently been published and I was gonna read it, but now I'm like, should I even read it? Because I barely remember what it was about. It's a thriller. I know that it's something to do with like a girl who's really good at like telling if people are lying. And I think it is kind of like a murder mystery, but I don't really remember much more than that. A Curse So Dark and Lonely, I'll say it was good / okay. That was another kind of on the same level as The Cruel Prince, where it was a fantasy, but it just doesn't deliver the same way that like ACOTAR does. So the thing is that like when I read it and when I read The Cruel Prince, when I read those series, I was really invested and I like wanted to know what was gonna happen next. But they're not a book where I'm like, but I also have to reread them. You know, like all of the absolute favorites or the amazing books are books that I would reread. I don't know that I would ever reread those. Such a Fun Age was also what I would consider like a good book. It really was thought-provoking. It's like, it's almost so thought-provoking that I feel like I should put it on the amazing book, but it wasn't like a book that I super enjoyed reading. So I feel like it's a really great book to read, but it's not necessarily a book that you would read when you just like want entertainment. I think they have kind of different purposes. Like this one's more thought-provoking about like racism and also like race fetishes, but it's not necessarily something that you would sit down to read just for entertainment purposes. Dreams Come to Life is a book that I would have never read myself. I only read it because one of my students recommended it. And I know she really loves it, but I didn't like it that much and I couldn't get into it. Crescent City, the first book, I'm gonna put as amazing book. The world building, again, was just really hard, but it was so, I mean, this book is huge. It's like 803 pages, and then the other one is 805 pages. So they're really long. You have to be prepared for that. But also, like, once you're into it, you really are into it, and it is really good. I'm putting it as amazing book instead of absolute favorite of 2022, just because I feel like the ending of the second one is really what sold the series for me. Here's another one of those Truly Devious books, and another one of the Poppy War books. The Atlas Six. This is kind of controversial, but I didn't like it that much. I wanted to love it. I wanted to love it because, again, it was one of those like dark academia books that I came across after finishing If We Were Villains. And I was like, okay, you know, I've read If We Were Villains. I want to read it, Truly Devious. I want to read this. I want to read that. Like the Vicious book. I was just trying to find anything that gave those vibes. And the Atlas Six was supposed to deliver. But I'll tell you, unless you are obsessed with like character-driven books, you're not really gonna like this that much. Like, at least in my opinion. I listened to it, and it's cool. It switches between the 6 characters' perspectives, and the second one switches between even more perspectives. So you get to like be in all of their heads. But that's almost the problem with it, because it's like, I don't want to be in all of their heads for as long as I'd be in their head. Like, imagine like reading a scene where you're sitting in a group and people are having a conversation, and then you're just in that character's head while they go off on tangents and like kind of get distracted or start thinking about something else and thinking about something else and thinking about something else. And then finally they come back and it's like only a matter of minutes have passed. Like, I can't be in your head for 12 minutes, but the story has only progressed like 3 minutes. It just drove me crazy. I felt like all they talked about was just stupid, like just stupid. They're so self-absorbed. I don't know, they're just annoying. Like, the only characters that I really enjoyed like being in their heads were Nico and Libby. They all go off on tangents, and I'm like, stop going off on tangents and tell me what's happening in the story, you know? So, and I think it's also because like I'm an overthinker and like I obsess over little things and kind of like go off on trains of thought. So it's like, I come into books to focus on something, you know, and all that book did, I felt like, was just kind of like waste my time, and the story has taken so long to progress and I don't like it. Sorry. The Box in the Woods is that is with the Truly Devious series, but it's like a different mystery, and I really like the main one, so I'm just gonna put this one as It Was Good or Okay. The Hollow Places, I'll just put it at meh. Yeah, it was another thriller that I picked up, but it was weird. I don't know, it was weird, but it was good, but it wasn't like amazing. So I don't know. Yeah, it's interesting. Kind of like different dimensional type stuff, which I thought I'd really like, but it was just okay. Good Girl, Bad Blood is with the Good Girl's Guide to Murder series. I like the whole series, so I'll just put it up at favorite of 2022. Beach Read, I liked this book so much. I'll say it was an amazing book. I really got into Emily Henry this year. Beach Read was definitely a really cute book. In fact, I don't know, I'll leave it at amazing book. I really liked it. Kingdom of the Wicked was delicious. Oh my goodness, I just love Kingdom of the Wicked. It's a delicious series. If you like ACOTAR or From Blood and Ash, I feel like you'll absolutely love A Kingdom of the Wicked. The main character is a witch. She's like has to work with the 7 demons of hell, and I'm like, I don't know, it's just good. I love it so much. I really want to reread it. Love listening to the audiobook. So Kingdom of the Wicked, Kingdom of the Cursed, and all the Kingdom of those are going to be up there. So here's that other one. So From Blood and Ash was definitely a favorite of the year. I really enjoyed the From Blood and Ash series. The only book that I did not like that much in that series so far is War of Two Queens. And that's because well, I can't spoil it, but I guess if you've read War of Two Queens, there was something that was kind of controversial that happened in it, and some people were really into it, and I was not. And I feel like, I don't know if it ruined the series for me, but it kind of made me totally feel different about the main love interest. And I was just like, no, that's not what I want. So I was kind of disappointed. I know that like the main character, or that Jennifer L. Armentrout hinted that it was going to happen, and I was really hoping it wouldn't happen or it would happen differently. But I'm not even necessarily upset that it happened, that what happened. I'm just upset that it was described the way that it was. It feels like it just changed things permanently, and I don't like that. A Court of Silver Flames by Sarah J. Maas is the 4th book in the ACOTAR series. It's from Nessa's perspective. Yeah, it was really good. Yeah, it was really good. Here's another A Curse So Dark and Lonely. Kingdom of Flesh and Fire is another From Blood and Ash. So good. Oh my goodness. Project Hail Mary is literally, it's made it to my top 10 books of all time. Andy Weir, or Andy Weir, however you say his last name, has written some really good books. He wrote The Martian and it became a movie. It was really well done. Then he wrote Artemis, which I didn't like as much as The Martian, but I liked it a lot. And then Project Hail Mary came out, which is probably like, I think his best of all of the 3. It's amazing. And I can't even like tell you why it's amazing because I feel like it would spoil it. But basically the main character wakes up and he doesn't know where he is, but he feels like he's maybe not on Earth, or like the conditions that he's in are not Earth-like conditions. And he's really like, it's like he's waking up from a coma, he's disoriented. And it follows like a lot of the same like kind of problem solving skills that The Martian has, or Artemis, if you've read those books. Very creative, like problem solving science. But I think it's just it's on a whole other level. Highly, highly recommend. Absolutely one of my favorite books of all time. And I read another one by B.A. Paris. The Therapist was better than The Breakdown. I actually do remember what this one is about. It's kind of like another elitist community. I don't know why I like these elitist type stuff, but elitist neighborhood community where the main character has moved into a house where a murder had taken place of all of the other neighbors, friend that lived in that house. And she's just kind of obsessed with trying to figure out what actually happened. People We Meet on Vacation was another one of those really great books by Emily Henry during that like rom-com contemporary fiction era of my year. The Darkness Outside Us was a book that I had on my TBR for a really long time, and I just kind of on a whim decided to read it, and it ended up being one of my absolute favorites of the year. It's so good. I can't even tell you, it's so freaking good. And it's weird how you'll have a book on your TBR for such a long time and you're like, I don't really know what this is about. And then you just kind of pick it up and decide to read it. And then it turns out to be just one of the best books you've ever read. It's so touching. It's science fiction, but also kind of thrillery, and has such great representation. The 2 characters are both men that are on this spaceship and they kind of have to work together. It's so good. Like, honestly, you have to read it. You just have to read it. Crown of Gilded Bones is from the From Blood and Ash series, which I loved, so it has to go up on Absolute Favorites of 2022. Here's to Us is the sequel to What If It's Us? And I was like, I don't know. Again, I might even put this one in meh. Things don't work out the way that I wanted them to, but I'll keep it in. It was good and it was okay. Instructions for Dancing was like a cute romantic comedy book, but I would just say it was good. As Good as Dead, honestly, like I rated it lower at the time because I was kind of like processing why it was so dark. It's the 3rd book in A Good Girl's Guide to Murder series. It takes a really dark twist, but the thing is that one really stuck with me. So I think I need to change the rating because I actually ended up, I'm like really into it now. At the time I was like, whoa, what the crap? Like, why is this one so much darker than the others? But now looking back on it, I'm like, oh my gosh, it's crazy. So definitely loved that one. A Shadow in the Ember is the first book in like the branch off series from Blood and Ash, where it just follows Nyktos' perspective. And so is A Light in the Flame. I love Nyktos so much. I like Seraphina and Nyktos' story almost better than Poppy and Castiel's at this point. partly because of what happened in War of Two Queens. Stay Awake was terrible. I was, again, looking for a thriller, and this one just super disappointed me. Like, why was it so bad? I don't understand. But I was so disappointed. It was really boring. I didn't feel like it was well written. I'm really sorry for that author, but I didn't like it. Wish You Were Here was like the third book by Jodi Picoult or however you say her last name that I've ever read. And it like ripped me apart. It ripped me apart. Really, really, really good book, but it will rip you apart. The Atlas Paradox goes with the Atlas 6. Yeah, I'm actually gonna put this one in meh. No, I don't know. I guess I'll put it in it was good or okay, but like, oh, I was so glad to be done with it. I feel like I should move these to meh, honestly. Like, I know that sounds terrible, but I'm just gonna have to do it. The cheat sheet was so freaking cute, honestly. Like, I wouldn't say it was an amazing book, but it was really cute, and I do think about it. Cute little rom-com. All That's Left in the World was also like a really good book. It's kind of like a post-apocalyptic LGBTQ book, and yeah, it's cute. I liked it. Reminders of Him tore me apart. I would say, like, out of all the Colleen Hoover books I've read, this is probably my favorite of hers so far. I haven't read that many, and I know she's written a lot. I've only read like 3, I think, including this one. But it was definitely like, I don't know, really, really touching story, and I really liked it. It's about basically a mother who doesn't have rights to her daughter. Her daughter is actually living with the father of her child's parents, because the father of her child passed away in a car accident that the main character feels responsible for and was also held responsible for. And so the family really doesn't like her, but she wants to be able to have a relationship with her daughter. And how could that already? I'm like, oh my God. When You Are Mine, I don't even know what that's about. I'm so serious. I literally don't remember what that's about. Oh wait, I vaguely remember, which makes it, I'm gonna have to not recommend it, because if I don't remember what it's about at all, I feel like I can't recommend it. I guess I'm gonna do that with the breakdown too. I feel like I just don't remember what they're about. It's kind of disappointing. Three more. Book Lovers was, I think, the first Emily Henry that I read, and I really, really, really liked it. I had read another Emily Henry book before Book Lovers, but it was like a YA book, and it was very different. I can't remember what it's called, and I barely remember what it was about. But anyway, I didn't like that one nearly as much as these 3. These are kind of like the more popular ones that she has. And then this year I'll be reading another book by her called something about the sky falling on splendor, which has low ratings, but we'll see. I'm just kind of curious how it's gonna go. But yeah, Book Lovers and Beach Read, I think I liked more than People We Meet on Vacation. At least they stuck with me more. The Favor was just meh, in my opinion. It was another thriller. Again, like, I was trying to read more thrillers, and a lot of them were just not really meeting my needs. So it's kind of a bummer, but it is an interesting book. And then the last one is Upgrade by Blake Crouch. Now, this hurts, but I have to just put it in it was good or okay. I read Dark Matter, and it's absolutely one of my absolute favorites of all time. It's definitely on my top 10. If someone's like, hey, give me your favorite book, I'd probably say Dark Matter by Blake Crouch, just because I think it's incredible. However, then Recursion came out. That one's like an epic mind, curse word. But I didn't like it as much as Dark Matter. And then Upgrade came out, and I thought, yes, it's gonna be amazing. And it wasn't. I don't know, it was just okay. I really wanted it to be on the same level of like Dark Matter, and it wasn't. So I was disappointed with it. I think other people, if you picked it up and maybe read it, you'd be like, wow, this is really well done. But for me, it just did not live up to Dark Matter, and so therefore I could not say it was an amazing book. Well, there you go. That's the 69 books that I've read this year. It's it's kind of cool to see how they kind of all played out. It looks like I had a pretty good year of reading books. But yeah, so I would love to hear if you read any of these books, or tell me if you plan to read any of these books. I will say I really do recommend that you read the two green categories, my absolute favorites and the amazing books. I just think those are so worth reading. I think you'll really enjoy them in 2023. But let me know if you've read any of these, or please leave some recommendations in the comments, and I hope to see you in my next video. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll talk to you guys later. Happy New Year. Bye.